There's the fun music. So happy. Happy music.
All right, people. You know what that means. If I'm playing that music, that means we're back. Welcome back to the Kindred Call podcast. Got another special treat for you this week. The one and only, the Miss Jennifer Wheeler. Bang, bang. There it is. Give you some applause. Good deal. Well, Wheels, everybody, just so you know, I call her Wheels. Everybody calls you Wheels.
Well,
But
you started it.
I think
J.
so.
Wheels.
Me and maybe shout out Matt Lively.
Yes.
But I'm excited to have you on here.
Oh,
I know that
thanks.
you have a relationship with Jesus. It's evident that he has moved on your life and that he's continuing to move on your life.
Yeah.
And so let's not waste any time, you know. Just so you guys know, she's got a wonderful, awesome story for you guys today. I mean, he's done a lot of stuff in your life,
Lots of stuff.
but, you know, we're going after the big ones today,
The
right?
big one. It's the big one. Yeah.
So, Wheels, without further ado, let's just get into this thing. Tell us a little bit about yourself, you know?
Well, a little bit about myself is that I'm from around here. My parents live.
Where is here?
I'm sorry, Collinsville, America.
We got people listening that are in Dallas, so.
Oh,
yeah.
nice. Yeah, Collinsville, America. My parents are actually originally from Broken Arrow. But when I was 5, they moved to 10 acres outside of Skytook, which is north of here, just about 20 minutes.
Right.
So, grew up in the country. I don't look really like a country girl
No.
at all, but I am a little bit. A
Right.
little bit.
It's in there.
It's in there. Yeah, I don't hunt and stuff like that, but I love me a good 4-wheeler ride.
Come on.
I do. So, yeah.
Just born and raised Okie,
Yeah.
through and through.
Yeah. And I've not visited enough places, in my opinion, but I have some places. But, yeah,
Me neither.
I'm an Okie through and through.
Me too. Born and
Yeah.
raised. I don't foresee myself ever leaving unless, you know, something crazy happens.
Yeah, I don't either.
But, yeah.
We'll be here till Jesus comes, I'm sure.
I mean, he needs people working in
He
Oklahoma, right?
does. He does.
So here we are, Lord, send us.
Yeah, right here.
Anyways, so I'm just ecstatic.
Yeah.
I'm excited to talk about this because I honestly don't have a lot of insight into your story.
Well, listen, I'm surprised you don't because I feel like I have, not recently, but I feel like I've talked about it
You
quite
have.
often.
You have.
Quite often. So,
And just, you know, Wheels drops some straight up truth bombs all the time in our services, pre-service. She always comes up with these nuggets that are just like, okay, where are you getting these from? And I
From
think,
the Lord.
I know it's from the Lord, but I'm like, I even went and got the same Bible you got. I'm like, all right, there's something in here that I'm missing. But there is, you know, it's just evident that you have a relationship with them. And I want to kind of talk about that today. So,
Yeah.
you know, I know that you are a breast cancer survivor.
I am.
You're surviving and thriving.
Thriving.
You're
Yeah,
doing.
that's it.
And so, you know, that's kind of what we're here to talk about today is
Yeah.
just how did you,
Yeah, so disclaimer, we're talking about breast cancer.
yeah, breast, you know. Well, Lord made them. So,
He did. He did. He
But,
did.
you know-
So, yeah.
so take us through your story, you know.
Okay.
How did you lean on Jesus throughout this thing, you know?
Well, I remember in the beginning of the whole thing, I was in a good spot with my relationship with the Lord. You know, I wasn't feeling like I was having to work at it. You know, you're in a good spot.
Yeah.
It's up and down.
Just feels.
You know, it's an up and down thing, and I was on the up. And I remember thinking, I can do this. This is not going to be hard at all. I was feeling great.
When you got the news?
Yeah. And so it's just a testament of what Pastor Jim says a lot of time that Grandma said, is that you read the word. It doesn't matter what you're feeling like when you read that word, you put it in because there's going to come a day that it will be there for you. And I remember just having that as an evidence in this whole thing, that in the beginning I was not rattled. Like, cancer is a scary word.
Absolutely.
It is a scary word, just period. And so I just remember, not feeling really rattled. I mean, it's going to come. It's going to come. And so, but I just remember feeling like the word is working in me. So, that's kind of cool to have that experience of, of what you've put in on a regular basis. It finally is evident that it's there for you and working for you.
That's right.
So in late April of 2017, Brad and Sam got married, and I got to help, which is one of my favorite things to do, is to help people celebrate special moments in their lives. And so I had transported some hydrangeas from the church to where they had their reception. And so the day after, which was a Sunday, I believe it was Sunday afternoon, I was cleaning my car, vacuuming my car, because I had gotten dirt in it from those plants. And okay, so we're going to be real around here.
I mean, we're real.
It's going to be real.
Yeah.
So like every girl does, when you go home and you get in your comfy clothes, you take the bra off, okay? Unless, you've had a mom that taught you otherwise. But you just, and I was well endowed always my whole life. So the comfy clothes come on, the bra contraption, comes off. And so I was vacuuming my car. And I remember leaning over and, things are rubbing, because I'm vacuuming my car. And I lifted up and I had a quarter size blood spot on my shirt. And I remember thinking, what? I'm just vacuuming my car. What did I do?
Somebody drop a marker?
Yeah. What is happening? And so I went inside and, looked, and I mean, nothing. And so, and I remember about that time seeing, like, on my pajamas, like a pin dot size of like a darker blood, like when it dries, But I didn't catch that. I didn't think, well, something's going on here.
Right.
But so after that happened, I thought, oh, I better go to the doctor and see what this is about. And so probably about a week, I was able to get in about a week's time, and I saw the, not the actual doctor, but the PA, and she did a breast exam on me, and she pushed really hard on that, and I think she got some stuff out of that, and so she's like, yeah, you need to see a breast specialist, and she said that they would refer me to a specialist. So I waited and waited and waited for them to do what they said they were going to. Yeah. Right. So it wasn't until about the middle of May, I had to finally just call myself and say, hey, I need to come see somebody. So that's how that all got started. And so I saw probably the best breast specialist in Tulsa, Oklahoma area, John Frame, at the time. And so I go and he does an ultrasound, and he finds like a pea size. I mean, it wasn't very big size lump spot since it was an ultrasound. And so he says, if you can come back tomorrow, I will do a needle biopsy right here in the office. So he wasn't acting like this is an emergency or anything like that, but I could just tell that we need to, let's get this figured out.
Right,
so serious. I was so thankful that he wasn't, because up until that point, I felt like it had drugged, nobody was doing hardly anything. So that's what I did.
Yeah, a little bit of sense of urgency for you.
Just a little bit,
That's appreciated.
Yes.
That is appreciated.
Yes, it is. So I did. Next day, went back, and so I don't know if you've ever had needle biopsy.
I've never done that.
So if I remember right, he took about 3 passes. So just like a clicker, just click it. And so I'm pretty sure he probably went all the way through that little spot.
Really?
So when the results came back, it was nothing. Everything was fine. But that little spot couldn't stay. So still, nothing's dawning on me.
Yeah.
So that spot in there can't stay. And so
he's like, it's nothing. It's not a big deal, but we got to get that out.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yep. That's exactly what it was. And so still, I'm just not even,
It's like, whatever.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Because you felt good. You're on a high, right?
Yeah. And so I believe it was in June. It was June. So that technically that was my first lumpectomy. First. And at that time, I really hadn't told a whole lot of people, just kind of my inner circle kind of people knew. And so I go and have that removed, and of course, they're going to test that.
Right.
And so when that test comes back, that's when it showed that I had breast cancer. So what they do when you have cancer, that whenever they take anything out, they're going to test the edges around the whole thing of what they take out. And you need to have clear margins or clear edges around that whole thing. And so it wasn't. So I think the needle biopsy, he was going through it. And so he was reaching areas that weren't cancerous.
That were healthy.
Yeah. And so I think that's kind of how that kind of worked out.
Dang, wow.
Yeah. And so whenever he called me to tell me it was breast cancer, I was at the grocery store. I mean, I wasn't getting groceries. I think I'd just run in there for something. But I remember being in Reese's and him calling me and saying, well, we're not done yet. We're not done. You do have breast cancer. This is not a threat to your life. Though he said those words. And he said, you need to come next, within a week's time, you need to come in so we can figure this out. And so I just remember thinking, really wasn't feeling the whole, this is a challenge yet. I was still good. Good. So I go and he tells me, that he's going to have to cut the tip of my breast off because it was behind my areola. And so kind of just went through all the steps with me. And at that point, I was going to have lumpectomy number 2. And because of the kind of cancer it wasn't in my duct. Or let me make sure I'm saying that right. It was in my duct. It wasn't in my tissue. So apparently there's a good kind to have. It's the kind that's in your duct and not in your tissue or in your lymph nodes.
Good kind.
Right. If this is what you're going to get, then this is, the best thing. This is the best case scenario. Well, yeah.
Doesn't feel like the best case.
Doesn't feel like it at all. And so, so because it was in my duct and nowhere else, I wouldn't have to do chemo. So I'd have the lumpectomy, but then I'd have to do radiation is what the treatment plan was. And then take a drug for 5 years, a tamoxifen it was called. And so that was what going into this, You
just thought that's the process. It's going to be done after that.
Yeah. And I have a cousin. Her name is Tanya.
Shout out Tanya.
Yes. And she had gone through all of this. And I remember having a very long conversation with her about tips on how to get through radiation because she had that as well. And so it's just interesting that everyone's journey with breast cancer or any cancer for that matter, it is very specific to you. And you can't, just like in just general life, you cannot compare yourself or your journey with this to anyone else.
Yes.
Because Satan, he did try to tell me, well, you didn't have to do chemo and you didn't have to do radiation. So, it's minuscule compared to other people. And that's not true.
Right.
I still went I still have to say I'm a breast cancer survivor. I still have to say, well, there's a whole story around that too, you know. And so you just can't do that.
Right.
You know, you still battled it, and it doesn't matter how you battled it, you still battled it.
Yeah, I don't think comparison is never a good call.
No, it's a trap.
Yeah, that is a trap of the enemy. If you find yourself comparing your struggle to somebody today, stop.
Yep, don't do it.
Just look to Jesus and say, Lord, I'm just going to give it to you anyways, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and so it was at this point that I remember my sister telling me, you can't keep this a secret, you know, because I hadn't told very many people. And because, you know, she just knew what I was fixing to go through.
Right.
It was going to be obvious that I was having a bad day.
There ain't no hiding that.
Nope, there's no hiding that. So I just remember thinking, okay, if I can't keep it a secret, then everybody's gonna know how to get through this. I mean, I don't.
If I can't keep this secret, then I'm gonna show everybody, like, this is who I'm relying on. Like, you're gonna try and let the Lord make you an example of what it looks like to lean on Him in that.
Yes. Yeah, I just determined that, you know, we're going to go through this, then people are going to know that you can kick the devil in his teeth.
That's right. Hashtag kick the devil in his teeth.
So I just was like, okay. And so I did. You know, I shared a lot of things as I went through it. And it was for the glory of God. It wasn't 100%. For me at all. You know, I just wanted people to know that Jesus gets you through. He gets you through.
Yeah.
The love of people. I had no clue, and I've said this before, and I'm probably going to cry maybe more than one time in this, but I had no clue how much people loved me.
Yeah.
You know, I knew my mom and daddy loved me, and I knew my siblings loved me, you know, but for my church family and just my family in general, I had no clue that people loved me. And I'm just me. I'm a silly country girl that's loud for Jesus.
Right.
And so I was just like, I don't even know. I mean, and it was like the Lord knew that I needed to know that I was loved, and that was one of the things that I felt like that got me through that well.
It was visible.
And so I had a hard time with that, though, because I wanted everyone else to experience that if they were going through a hard time.
Right.
And God kind of showed me that He uses that for your specific time and for you specifically. Like Ivy Brown. Love Ivy Brown.
Shout out Ivy.
She's my girl. And she had breast cancer after me. And I remember feeling like, well, I want to do everything like everyone did for me. But God kind of showed me that Ivy might not have needed to have the same experience, that He was going to get her through.
In the way that she needed to be.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And, just as an outsider looking in, because what is this, 2017?
27, yeah.
So, I was a junior in high school. And so I'm obviously part of your church family. What?
You were a junior in high school?
I think so. Yeah. Okay. I'm just a youngin', y'all.
My gosh. And see, you're in my notes. I made notes along the way, and I have a picture of, like, the first Sunday I was back in church and you sang a song, and I have the picture, and it's little Nate.
I remember you telling me something about the song we sang, like it spoke to it. You know, ain't that funny how the Lord works that way?
Yeah.
But, you know, that was one of the things that was just evident to me in seeing you go through this thing. Now, obviously, we weren't as close as we are now, and we weren't as, communicative as we are now. But just I remember coming to church and 50 to 75 people wearing a Jennifer's Army t-shirt, just encompassing you in love. And yes, you needed it.
I did.
100%, And I mean, what another lie of the enemy to get you thinking that the only people that care about you are your mom and your daddy, your brothers and your sisters,
Yeah, that's not true.
And so, y'all, we don't need to experience just desolation and destruction in our lives to recognize that there's love for us, you know?
Right.
And so even if it's not an immediate family member or anything, I just, you got to know somebody loves you. And even if there ain't a person around you that loves you, Jesus Christ himself,
Yes.
you know, Hebrews, I say it all the time, for the joy awaiting him past the cross, he endured the cross because he looked down through the ages and he saw me in my most trashed moment. He saw me in my worst times, and he says, I love Nate, and I'm going to do this for him because he's going to choose me.
Yep.
And that's what the Lord, you know, he saw you, Jen, and he's like, she's going to choose me.
Yeah.
And what did you do? I mean, just before you started this whole thing, you said, if I'm going to go through this, everybody's going to know I'm leaning on Jesus.
Yeah.
That's exactly what God saw in this, you know, not something that's going to take you out, but something that it's a tool in your belt. It isn't a thorn in your side, you know? So you're loved today,
That's
bottom line.
Yes, you are.
But anyways.
So I had lumpectomy number 2, and that tip was removed. And listen, the timing it just blows my mind, the timing. So I can't remember where Dean and Silas were, my husband and son, but my sister actually took me to that surgery and brought me home. And then she had come and checked on me. So whenever I removed the bandages for the first time and seeing what that looks like without the tip. So if you want to know what that looks like, it looks like a pillow. It's a pillow on your chest. That's what it looks like.
We're being real.
Being real. Right after that. And so my sister is an RN, so shout out to Erica.
What up, Erica?
Erica Caputo. She took care of me. And so she helped me shower. And so she was there. So I'm seeing this for the first time. And that's when the doctor calls.
When you're doing this for the first time?
Yes. Yes. My sister is there. And he calls and says, well, the lumpectomy didn't get it all. So still no clear edges. And we still have work to do. So it was at that moment when it got
real.
It got real, and Jennifer might have had the biggest adult hissy fit you ever did see. And I got mad.
Yeah.
I got mad, and I kid you not, I screamed at the top of my lungs, and I threw my phone. I was standing in my bedroom, and my bath was in my bedroom, so it was right at that door. And I threw my phone, and it hit the back of the bed, and I just screamed. And my sister got to see all of this. Yeah. And I just couldn't understand it.
Right.
I mean, what's going on, you know?
Yeah.
And so things are not happening like I thought they would be happening.
Preach.
And so that's when I got mad. And that's when I just was like, okay, devil, if you want to go, let's go.
I'm going to kick your teeth in, son.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And so then it was time to talk about a mastectomy. And so because of the size that I was, I had to think about all the avenues.
Right.
So I couldn't just be flat on one side because of my size. I could, if I wanted to, I could have a double mastectomy. And so I remember, and so it was at this point that I felt like all my friends were out having fun, and I'm having to sit at home and decide how to chop up my chest. You know, and, my husband is very quiet, and I remember making him sit down and tell me what he would do, you know, and he's so respectful of me.
Dean.
And he was like, well, I'm not going to make the decision for you. I said, I don't want you to make the decision for me. I want to know, though, what you would do. I mean, I need to make this decision. So I'm just trying to gather some information up here, you know. And so he told me what he would do. And I'm trying to think if he really did or if he just kind of, because I think I wouldn't have chosen what.
Kind of trying to just appease you, like, no, don't ask me.
Yeah, and I do remember him saying, "Well, I'm just glad you're gonna make a decision." Well, I mean, yeah, I had to make the decision, and so I did choose to do some hereditary testing because if it had come back positive that I had a hereditary breast cancer gene. Then it was just a matter of time when it would go to my left side. And so I believe before my mastectomy, I had a MRI. And I don't know if you've ever had an MRI or not, but whoo-wee.
Yeah, in a metal tube?
Yep, in a metal tube. And so I remember being in the doctor's office and showing me the results of that. And so on my right side, which is the side that I had this, I remember there being like blue dots. And it was real concentrated in the center. And so, but then there were some like at an 11 o'clock. And I mean, there were just a few out here.
On the outskirts.
Yeah. And even though the doctor wasn't concerned about that.
You're seeing them.
And I'm seeing them. I'm thinking, but there's blue dots. And my left side was clear. So if that had come back, then it would have just been a matter of time for the other side. And so the doctor offered, he said, we can do another lobectomy. And I said, so you mean we're just going to chip away at this? And in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm not doing that. No, thanks.
Let's get it gone, son.
No, thanks. Yeah. And so the hereditary test came back negative. And so I made the choice because I felt like I was too young to have a flat chest, that I was going to have a mastectomy on my right side, and then I would have a lift and a reduction on my left, so I would be pretty much even. So that's the choice that I made to do. And so scheduled mastectomy for August 16th of 2017. And so I had to have help through this. And so there were people like a Julie Carney.
Shout out, Jules.
And she took Silas to school for me one day because my husband works a swing shift.
There it is.
Rotating. We managed to go through this with help from our friends. And so he didn't have to take off a whole lot of time. And so August 16th, well, that's back to school time, you know. So I had to have help. And so I have a mastectomy. And so this is one of the funny parts of this whole thing is I don't handle anesthesia very well at all. It was not until the end that I figured out not gas, but through the vein is much better for me. And so I might as well just say that I had 8 surgeries.
8. So
from June to the following July 2018, I had 8 surgeries.
Y'all, that's 8 surgeries in less than a year.
In about a year's time. Yeah, I had 6 in 5 months. You
lived on an operating table for a bit.
Listen, I knew that room well.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I went to the same operating room for most of these.
You're in there enough to be like, y'all change the drapes? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I knew it well. And so, surgery number 3, mastectomy. And so you get to spend the night in the hospital.
Oh, yay.
And I remember them wheeling me out. So you don't have to wait till the anesthesia,
Right.
you just get to go to your room. And so I was a little bit out of it. Okay, a little bit out of
Little
it.
loopy.
A little bit. And I remember them turning a hallway, and whoever was pushing me said, "Oh, there's your friends and family." So my mom and dad were there. My sister, Dean and Silas were there. Julie was there, and Rod and Kim Henry. Shout out to Rod and Kim Henry.
I love the Henrys.
Love them, love them. And so I just remember going, "Oh, there's your family." And so they stopped, and Dean was like right there on my side. And well, when they said, "There's your family," I started crying, going, "I want my husband. I want my husband."
Dean's like, "I'm right here, baby."
Yeah. So they stopped. He's right there, and they stopped, and he patted me.
Oh.
And I remember thinking, did he just pat me on my bad side that I did?
He's just trying to.
I mean, it wasn't hard, He was just trying to say, "It's okay, it's okay," because
Right.
I'm like, I'm still in the anesthesia, and so I'm a mess. So they wheel me into the room, and they're trying to fix me so everyone can come in, and everyone leaves, and the nurse asks me once they get me all situated, and if you know anything about a mastectomy, you come out of thank goodness you don't.
Yeah.
You come out with a drain.
Oh, okay.
So it's like it's up here, but then the tube comes out of my side, right here. And it has like a bulb on the bottom collecting
That hurts
fluid.
me just saying it.
Yeah. And so they're trying to get me all situated. And I remember the nurse saying, "Honey, do you need a priest or a pastor, or is there someone we can call for you?" And I kid you not, I said, "No. I got the Holy Ghost, and all those people out there got the Holy Ghost, and they're bringing him with them."
That's right.
And I was out of it. So my spirit man was not.
That's right.
Out of it. My spirit man knew that the Holy Ghost had me, and I was going to be okay.
Yeah.
So
the whole time.
No one was there to witness that. You just have to believe me that I remember
I believe it.
happening. So, of course, then Dean comes, and I'm still out of it, and I'm just crying. I remember him saying, "You're going to have to stop. Let's dry this up because Silas is going to come in here."
Be strong, Mama.
Yeah. So I did. So, I mean, from the hallway, I'm, and so then everyone comes in. I'm going, "Hi, how's everyone?"
Yeah.
So it was like that. But that just is a testimony to what your spirit man.
100%.
I mean, my spirit man was on it that day for me, and I'm so glad that it was.
Yeah. Your spirit man, the Holy Spirit. I mean,
yeah.
He is exactly everything that the Word says He is.
Yes,
He is our helper, and He gives us the ability He strengthens us in those times,
I mean, like a switch.
I mean, just think about...
Turn on that power.
Yeah. Just think about all the things that these faith giants we know went through.
Yeah.
And even the things you go through. I mean, I got to imagine, we say all the time, David's knees were shaking standing before a giant,
Yeah.
And just like you and your story, your knees are probably shaking. And what I love, and it's real, it's real that you got angry. It's real that you throw a phone. It's real that you express your emotion. And so often what this world tries to do to us is to just compress us and to mold us into this thing. That's not who we are. We are allowed to flush this stuff.
Yes, you have to.
You have to get it out.
You have to.
And what I love is that, does Erica love you any less because she saw that? No. Everybody needs an Erica.
Yes.
Everybody needs somebody that's in your corner no matter what. I say this about my wife all the time.
Oh.
I know, I love her. She's awesome. But I say it all the time, especially when people are like, you do a lot of ministry, Nate, and we don't really see a lot of her. And I said, don't worry, that's because I'm in the ring.
Right. Yeah.
She's in my corner.
Right. Absolutely.
And I mean, that's all I need, Yeah. She is my helper. And just as much, not just as much Holy Spirit does what He has to do. But in this world, we need those people that love us enough to see us in our
yes.
deepest, darkest
My
moments.
goodness.
And we also need deans who come in and say, all right,
Yep.
let's
Dry it up.
dry it up for a
Dry it
minute.
up.
I'm going to hold you in a minute.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold you when everybody leaves.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's just so evident to me and to everybody else because we're up here. If you wonder why I'm pointing, it's because right back there is where church happens for us. But it's evident to everybody that witnesses what you do for us. And she does a lot more than what is seen out here. Y'all, if we didn't have J Wheels, current church would come to a grinding halt and we'd all be like, who? Yeah.
Job security.
We're very thankful for her. And, it's just, like I was saying, it's so evident to me that you've been with him.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about our series that we've been going through is that the title of it is what they had been with Jesus.
Yeah.
There's a reason that your spirit was strong. There's a reason that you were able to walk through those things. You had been with Jesus.
Yeah.
And even in those moments where, it don't make sense it makes sense to cry. It makes sense to be angry. It makes sense to say, get out of the room. Even in that moment when they're like, hey, you need a priest or a pastor.
Yeah.
You're like, I've got my helper.
Well, I think it was after going to hear all about what a mastectomy would be.
Yeah.
I think I did cry. I think my sister was with me at that time. It kind of all runs together, but I remember being in the car and crying and asking her, why is this happening to me?
Right.
Everyone is going to probably ask that question at some point in your life. Why is this happening to me? And you have to just kind of, that's really not the question to be asking, because bad things happen all the time to everyone.
That's right.
And so the question is, well, how am I going to get through this with the Lord? Because you can. I mean, he made a way. He always makes a way.
He makes a way.
Always.
And one of my favorite kind of thoughts to come back to is that, I think there's a lot of misconception around life with Jesus. Jesus is not my way out.
No, he's the way through.
He is the way through.
The way through. Yeah.
He makes a way. That means that there's something that he has to make a way through.
Yeah.
And,
or he wants you to know him deeper.
Yes.
Like there's nothing that you could ever say or do to make me think that the goodness of God does not exist.
Right.
Like, that's one of the things that I learned through this whole thing, was that it doesn't matter what's going on in your life. That doesn't change the goodness of God.
Right.
He's always good. There's always something good that can come out of your situation. And he always wants you to go deeper in him and to find.
Right.
You have to find, well, how is breast cancer a good thing for me?
Yeah.
How was it a good thing for me? It taught me that I am loved no matter what.
Yes.
And that he is faithful no matter what. He's faithful when I'm not.
Yes.
He's faithful when I'm screaming and throwing phones.
Yeah.
He just is. And so you have to find it.
Right. And you're saying he is faithful, he is good. Those are not traits. That is who he is.
Yes.
It's who he is. And that doesn't really make sense, from this standpoint. Breast cancer does not, I'm looking at it in you and I see the, you're talking about edges and how the edges had to be, he is the silver lining surrounding this whole thing, you know? And so, maybe that's the thought for today, is to just look to him no matter where you're at, no matter what you're feeling, because he can use it for his good. It's not to say that he's pushing you towards desperation for him.
Yeah. No.
Life, it rains on the just and the unjust.
Yes, it does. But
the difference between, the just and the unjust is our response to an issue.
Yeah.
Am I going to respond to what I'm facing out of my own experience, of my truth, You know,
Yeah.
am I going to respond out of that, or am I going to really take what I believe is true
Right.
and apply it to my life?
Yeah. So I'm so glad that you said that, because I can't remember at what point this was, but I remember asking the doctor. So I had always held out just a mustard seed of faith and hope that I would get to have a baby number 2. And that just really didn't ever happen. So whenever all this happened, I was like, oh, if I'm taking a cancer drug for 5 years, then there's no way I can have a baby. And so, on one of the times, I always tried to go with questions and what I wanted to be made clear.
Yeah.
To all of these doctor appointments, I remember asking, well, so I can't get pregnant while doing this? No, you can't. And so, that pretty much sealed the deal on that, because, I'm not I may look like a spring chicken, but I'm not.
Yeah.
And then the next question, because, you go through the stages.
Right.
So I was, I was still in denial. And I said, so from now on, every time I have to fill out medical papers, I have to say I'm a breast cancer survivor. And that doctor, with all the best bedside care and manner a doctor has, said, no, you get to. You get to. And that was a shift for me in this whole thing, is that I realized, oh, there's a lot of people who don't get to say it. And so, okay, that kind of brought me to, okay, I can do this, and I am going to get to do this. This isn't taking me out.
Right.
I'm going to get to do this. So it was after the mastectomy that it really got, we've said a lot of good stuff so far, but it didn't get hairy until after the mastectomy, because I chose reconstruction. We don't hear a lot about breast cancer survivors having any issues with reconstruction, but there is.
Yeah.
I lived it, and I know all about it, and it was.
And that's something that's rang true about a lot of, the testimonies I hear, is that the after stuff, it's not a clear picture.
Yeah.
They make it seem like it's just smooth sailing, but that's just not the truth.
Oh, yeah. After my mastectomy, I can't remember the time frame, but the plastic surgeon was like, well, we'll put you in an expander, and, by Christmas. By Christmas, I would be done. And, or maybe it was a little bit before Christmas, but I was not. I was not done at all. And so because I'm a little fluffy, after the mastectomy, I had me a new little armpit. It was a little weird. And that little armpit gave me trouble. It got infected. They had to do some plastic surgery work on that. And so in the early part of September, they did some reconstruction work on it. Well, after that surgery, it got infected. And so until all that, so what happens when you do reconstruction is, because everything's gone, and so they put in an expander. And so you either expand it with CO2 or you expand it with fluid. And I think just saline, And so the new kind of expander is the CO2. And you can expand it yourself at home. It was really kind of a cool thing, because there was kind of like a magnet. So I would have the gun thing, and I would connect it. So whenever I made that connection, that's when I shot the CO2 in there.
You just shot CO2 in there?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Myself. And so it made a little sound like home run at a baseball game. Da-da, da-da.
Oh, like when you would shoot it, is this like a you did a good job type thing? Oh, okay.
I mean, it was kind of fun.
Yeah, that sounds
You
fun.
know, kind of sounded like I was making a home run. I mean, it kind of did, you know. I only got to do that 2 times.
Really?
Only 2 times. And got infected. And so I went to the doctor on a Tuesday, and Dean went with me on this particular day. And I'm sitting in the chair, and the doctor's in front of me, and Dean's over here up against the wall. And I was pretty clueless. I didn't think that I had an infection at all. And he just looked at me, and he was like, I'm so sorry, but that's infected. You're going to have to...
Another surgery?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
You're going to have to report to the hospital tomorrow, and we're going to take that out, and we're going to clean you out. And then we're going to put the old-fashioned expander in, and I'm starting all over. Get to start all over.
Yeah.
And so this is moment number 2, where I have a complete
breakdown.
I have a complete knowing of what my spirit is doing and what my flesh is doing. So, the first time was under anesthesia, and, I've got the Holy Ghost,
right.
And that was, yoo-hoo. Whoopee. But this time it was more my, my flesh. Like it probably was similar to a small panic attack or anxiety attack, honestly, because I couldn't believe what I just heard. And so my flesh was freaking out and crying. And so I kid you not, this is what was happening. I mean, it was like a small little battle going on
in your brain,
in Jennifer. And I remember just thinking to myself, just give up. Just quit. Just be done. Jennifer, just be done. I mean, I could have. At that point, I could have pulled the plug and said, I don't want to expand. Just keep me flat and just take the other. I mean, I could have.
Right.
And I really think that was the devil saying, give up, Jennifer. Just give up. But at the same moment that I heard those words, my spirit came again and said, no, you made a plan and you're going to stick to the plan. And the plan is you're with Jesus. Jesus is with you. That's the plan. And so, I mean, my poor husband. I mean, all of this is going on at the same moment. So I have my perspective. And, I shared this story on our mission trip because we were talking about perspective. That was my perspective. And of course, the doctor is just like, I could tell he was
real upset.
So sad that he had to deliver that news. And then there's my husband. And what was going on in Dean's mind is how am I going to take care of my wife? We're not done with this. I have to go to work tomorrow. Silas has school tomorrow. How are we going to do this? So it's a different perspective. I wasn't thinking of any of that. I was just thinking, are you kidding me? What is happening right now? And I had to ask the doctor to repeat himself. That was one of the few times I had to do that. And so he, again, gently told me, and I was just like, okay. And so it was at that point that I could not stop crying. He left the room, and the nurse left the room too. I remember Dean going, just stop crying. Just stop crying, I don't think he likes it when I'm in pain.
Of course not. He loves you.
Hurt. And so he doesn't know what to do with a crying woman.
Oh, me neither. I'm just like, do you want ice cream or something?
Yes, ice cream always is. And so the nurse came back in and said, this is where you go. And so Wednesday. So the next day was Wednesday. I reported to the hospital, and I did not leave that hospital until Saturday. So from Wednesday to Saturday, I had to sit in the hospital while they figured out exactly what infection I had and how to treat it, because I was either going to go home with pills or I was going to go home with an IV. And nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to do that. And so I had to, that whole time, I mean, Wednesday, I mean, I was just sitting in the hospital Wednesday to Thursday. And an infectious disease doctor is who they had work on that infection.
Really?
Yes.
Pretty serious infection.
Yes. And do you know that man did not come until Friday night at midnight to see me?
And he got it figured out by Saturday?
Yeah. And then by the next day, I could go home.
Homie, do better.
I know, right? I mean, I sit there. And so.
He's probably saving lives. And I'm like, do better.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, dude. You're doing great.
Yeah. He was smart. He was so smart of a guy. And, but you know the song, Defender?
Yes.
I love that song.
It's a great song.
And it's just now, you know, this is 2017. And so now we're to 2024. Just now I can hear that song and not get choked up. Because when it talks about all you have to do is praise. And God fights for you.
That's right.
I know that full well because sitting in a hospital just from a Wednesday to a Saturday, I wasn't doing anything, but God was.
That's right.
He was defending me. And so, yeah, that song just, it means a lot to me, that song.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just true.
It is true.
It's 100% true.
Yeah.
You know, I've said it before that even in the grave, when his body was still, Christ was still moving.
Yeah, he was.
He was doing the greatest thing that he's ever done. He's defeating the power of the grave.
Yes. So that's proof that when you can't see anything going on, God's doing something.
And what do you do in that moment?
You just have to
worship.
You got to worship.
You know, and worship is not, and we were quoting a song, you know, but worship is not just a song, people.
Nope.
Worship is meditating on his word. Just thinking about the Lord is worship. You know, serving him in any fashion is worship. And so, you know, that's what, you know, we see Jennifer do it all the time. And that's a hard thing to do in that spot. It's a really hard thing to do. And believe me, as a worship leader, I've found it too. People are like, he ain't got problems. He's always seen. Dude, homie's got problems, all right? I got issues too. But what I found is the most effective way to just power through, I say that because it's not my power.
Yeah.
The most effective way through something is to ask the Holy Spirit to guide you through it. Because if you start, I mean, just imagine running through thorn thickets, you know, it's going to tear you up. But the Holy Spirit has a way of taking scissors and just snipping away at those things, getting to the root of a problem. He pulls that root, you know.
Yep.
So he's pretty great.
He is pretty great. He is.
You got anything else you want to share with us?
Oh, that's halfway. It's halfway through.
Dang, dude.
I told you.
We got some stuff. Let's go.
So, in October, so I had 2 surgeries in September. And so whenever they removed that expander, I had the old-fashioned kind, so I had to go to the doctor every week, and he expanded it.
Oh.
So they put it behind your muscle, so you're expanding, so it'll make room for an implant. So that's what that is.
Dang.
Yeah, and so in October, after I was finally seeing some healing in my body, they went in and removed the center skin. So I have been stretched that skin, and so they removed that. And then after that, it just looked so much better. It was just so much better. So November, no surgery.
Praise God.
Yeah, and then I don't think I had one in December either. But in November, I remember around Thanksgiving time, we were getting ready to go visit Dean's parents in Westville, and I was taking a shower, and this was in our house in Oologah, so I could hear what was happening in the living room from the bathroom. And one of Dean's favorite things to watch is the Three Stooges. And there was
classic.
there was a marathon, and so him and Silas were watching it. And I remember being in the bathroom getting ready and, getting out of the shower. So I know, I've got all these scars and just hearing Silas and Dean laugh and just hearing that. And this was just one of the moments that I was overcome with thankfulness of what the Lord was getting me through.
Yeah.
And I didn't, just certain moments like that I wanted to burn in my memory because I didn't want to forget.
Right.
That's a good thing through all this, that I get to still hear them laughing and, enjoying each other's time. Being dudes, and so you just have to be intentional about
100%.
that as well. And so, January 31st, well, actually, I forgot to say on August 31st, actually, is when the doctor called and said that the mastectomy had gotten all the cancer. And so what that actually meant was that I didn't have to do radiation. So I didn't have to do radiation or chemo. And so I truly feel like kind of like Job, how the Lord allowed Job to go through some pretty rough stuff.
Right.
But not to be killed.
Nope.
He was not taken out. And so I feel like God's
and he was
grace,
inflicted.
Yes, he was. So God's grace and his mercy, he kept chemo and radiation from me.
Right.
I feel that. And so I did still take the tamoxifen, and side effects from all that is a whole nother different story. And so that was a pretty cool day.
Yeah.
When the doctor called and said that, And so
it was a little victory.
It was a little victory. You got to celebrate those victories. So then January 31st is when I had, they took out my expander and put an implant in. And then I did a lift and reduction on my left side. And so that, that went fine and well and all that. And that's when I started the tamoxifen for 5 years. And then July 2018 is when I had surgery number 8. And they just did some cleanup work. And so it actually extended my scar underneath my armpit further back. So I kind of match on both sides. But yeah, 8 surgeries within about a year's
That
time.
is insane.
Yeah.
That's nuts. Like, I mean, I know the effect, my mom shared her testimony with us, and it's just like, I know the effect of that, just feeling the weight of all those things, and you've kind of said it too today, it's just that worrying about other people, because you rely on people in those times, but the Lord gives grace for seasons, and I got to believe that He's just got His hand on Dean and Silas and Erica and your whole family, just like empowering them to love you in the way that they needed to in that time.
Yep.
And I mean, it's evident.
Yeah.
You could see it all the way through.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm trying to think if there was anything else. I was looking at my notes. I made notes.
Yeah, I love that. I like that for future guests.
Listen.
Notes are important.
Notes can save you so much.
Notes do save people every week,
They do.
I've seen some PJ taking some notes. He's like, "Oh, I almost forgot this," and then he just drops a truth bomb, and everyone. But
seems like I was gonna say one more thing, and I can't remember. But yeah. So your mom, she has an awesome story. If you haven't listened to that yet, you should go listen to it. But she's the reason why there's a Jennifer's Army t-shirt. Hey. That was her idea, and so.
Well, and she's a person that, I mean, just around this time frame, she's going through it too, And so she's like, she probably saw you and was like, she needs love right now.
It's probably so. I mean, look at all this. Look, there's the picture of you.
Hey, there I am, look, little tiny me.
It's little Nate.
What happened to that guy?
I don't know what happened to him, but
he actually got big and then he got tiny again. But it's all good. I did it for the Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
and
insane.
Then Pink Day.
Pink Day. I tried to get it. I don't know. My lights are. I'm colorblind, and so I'm not very good with colors, but I think that's close to.
I love it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. Yeah, I took so many notes because I just wanted to remember story time with Nate. This was probably in July. The song "Hold On to Me" from Elevation.
Ooh,
I guess
good one.
you sang that. My God is stronger. He won't let go of me. Christ, my Savior, faithful through eternity.
Oh, that's a good bridge, man.
So good. So good. So, yeah, just lots of ups and downs.
And that brings something to my attention is that, in the Bible, we see all these men with walking sticks. And their walking sticks weren't just walking sticks.
No.
And something I watched in, I don't remember what the movie is called. I think it was His Only Son or something on Amazon. It's about the story of Abraham and Isaac.
Oh.
But it's just this like gloss over moment or whatever. But they're sitting around a fire and Isaac looks at his father's walking stick and he's like, "Can I hold it?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's looking and he's taking note of all these things. And what they would do is they would take and they would engrave on their walking stick great victories, even defeats, like everything monumental that helped shape them into the person they've become. They would engrave them on this walking stick. And Isaac's like, "Can I see the walking stick?" He's like, "Dad." And his dad hands it to him.
Yeah.
And, but that brings up that to my mind is just that we need to take notes. We need to remember something that shines through. I'm pointing at this because the Bible's on it. Something that shines through the word is people remember what the Lord said to them.
Yes.
Some of us can't remember what we had for breakfast this morning.
Nope.
And that's where this world tries to get us.
Yeah.
Is in that, just keep going, get through it. But the Lord, he's a patient, kind, loving Father. And he wants us to take a beat, realize that that was one of the truth bombs you dropped a couple weeks ago. The Selah and the Psalms.
Oh,
pause in his presence.
Yeah.
Y'all, pause in his presence today, Even if you're in that spot where you're angry, you're ready to throw a phone through a headboard.
Yeah. So I remember what it was that I was going to share.
Come on with it.
I did go to the operating room, like the same one, and I'm pretty sure it was after my expander got infected that I was just so disheartened. And I remember praying, laying there, because, you're on this wide,
Little
just
tiny,
a teeny tiny bed.
Y'all got to do something about them beds.
Yeah. And I remember thinking, God, just come and be in here with me. Just come be in this room. And I heard the Lord say, I was already here. I was already here. And so he was already there. And every time that I went. The whole way. And after I got, they did the switch out of my expander, I had such trouble with leaking. Like when you'd have plastic surgery,
Body's trying to.
Yes, it just kind of swells and it's trying to get rid of that fluid. And I couldn't figure out where it was coming from, but I kid you not, I would have like bandages and things like that, and I would just soak through them. And I remember I was trying to go to like a ladies' breakfast or our meeting, but it was going to be a breakfast time, and being at Julie's house and trying to bandage myself up so I wouldn't
leak.
Yes, and it was horrible. And so I had to sleep sitting up from the mastectomy and from all that, because I have the drain and all that.
Out.
And I remember after I got to sleep on my back, I woke up the next morning and I had this crazy hair.
Yeah.
And I made a Snapchat. I don't. You probably didn't ever see it.
Nope.
But I said, I put a filter on so it looked a little different.
A little bit more presentable.
well, yeah, because I didn't have no makeup on. But I was like, you guys see this hair? It looks like I might have had a wild and crazy night, but I did not. I had sleep.
I got some peace. Y'all, you ever sleep in a recliner?
Yes, it's not very fun at all. And so, through the whole thing, I also kept my sense of humor. You need it. You have to have the joy of the Lord going through this.
It is our strength.
And the nurse, I did the breast specialist nurse did tell me at one point, she goes, you have the best attitude through this whole thing. And I was just thinking, it's Jesus.
That's right.
It is Jesus.
Jesus the whole way.
Jesus.
And he's with you today.
Yes,
he's with you. He's in the room with you. He's in the car with you. Wherever you're listening, he's with you. And so just do what we've seen Jennifer do in her testimony and what we see her do on a Sunday morning. And, just acknowledge him.
Yep.
Even if you don't feel like you're hearing him, even if you don't feel like you feel him, he is working. Yep. He is still moving, and he still loves you.
Yes, he does.
Well, Wills.
Always.
Thank you so much.
I gotta be done. There's, I think
you got work to go do.
I got stuff to do, and I could talk about it.
I love talking about the Lord. I love talking about our stories. Why? Yeah. We got to share them. We got to let them know what the Lord's done. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, y'all. This has been the Kindred Call podcast. That's Jay Wills. I'm Nate Sinney. I'll see you next time. All right. Y'all have a good one.